So with Scarlet and Violet came out, I saw a lot of the new Pokemon, and in the new Pokemon there is one of my favorite designs, Ceruledge. And there's not that much made for Ceruledge out there, so I decided I'd make it myself. It's a card and some other smaller figures, but I decided to make my own figure. I've only made one thing before, and it wasn't even baked. It was this a token from Genshin Impact. And I first started making the head on this piece of wood and pulling out my carving tools, placing the eyes, and then I ended up going in and kind of making it more like Ceruledge, but I ended up not liking how the head was shaping, so then I pulled it off and started working on a new one. Yeah, as you can see, I started over and started using my X-Acto knife to cut more exact angles off on the face. I rolled out some thinner polymer clay that I was going to then lay over the head for the start of the helmet. And then when that was cut out, just gently laying it over the top, giving him a little bit of a Pope crown. Not really, but you know, unintentional. Cut and trimmed that and then started smoothing it to the face. Started to roll out some thinner pieces of polymer clay to lay over the top of the head to fill out the rest of the knight helmet on top of Ceruledge. Also saying Ceruledge is really hard over and over, so I'm going to call him what I call him in my game. My Ceruledge's name in Violet was Artorias, and we're just going to call my figure a nickname, Artie. So we're working on filling out Artie's head here, adding a little bit more balls of clay and stuff to fill out his helmet and make it all smooth together. Looking more like a Mega Man helmet as we go, which is great because I love Mega Man. And yeah, his forehead got a little bit big, so I had to give him a little bit of surgery. And then after trimming it, I smoothed it out, and now it's starting to look much more like what Ceruledge is supposed to look like, and Artie's coming to form. Now Artie's helmet has a little bit of a groove underneath so that you can kind of see a separation of the helmet and the face. So I went ahead and did that with some of my smaller tools. And then after I did all that, I started to work on adding in the eyes as well as the kind of chin strap thing that Artie has. And then of course cleaned it up and smoothed it out so that it looks better. I got to carve the eyes and the top, so I took out some of my smaller tools, lightly traced where they were going to go with the small one, and then I'm going to carve out the like triangles and the rest of the rune pattern on Artie's head. Got my dental tools pulled out so that I can get those really small precise holes on the head. continuing the lines and grooves. When I was done with that, it was time to give it a rubbing alcohol wash before I cleaned it up a little bit more. Cut out the horns on the side of the head. I also baked the head so that I can start working on the back of the head without ruining my progress. Pulled out my Dremel tool with the diamond tips and my other sanding drums to carve down the head spikes, which I also baked because working on thin things like that. Pre-drilled holes in the sides of the head and the horns. Cut out some armature wire and put some bacon bond on the back of the head so that I could put polymer clay on the back of Artie's head and attach the back of the head and the front of the head together. A cool thing with polymer clay is that you can use a heat gun to kind of preheat it and almost bake it without putting it into the oven. Used a little wooden thing to hold it together, adding clay and then smoothing out the back with more rubbing alcohol. Baked the entire head. Sanded it down, making it smooth. Use my files to get into those little tiny places that are harder to reach. And more sanding. Dust off Artie's head and make sure it's clean. Now that the head's done, I can now move on to the body. This is the second armature I actually made. The first one I made didn't have the spirals and it was way too flimsy. So I just started adding layer upon layer of clay to build out the body for Artie. Smoothing things into each other, even though it might not be necessary at this moment, but I did it anyways to blend things together. Built out his torso and smoothed everything out, and then I wanted to build onto it, so I baked it. And now that it's all hard, I can move on to the next parts where I'm going to pre-drill the part for the head as well as the arms. Fit in Artie's head and fit in the wires for the arms. Make sure they both kind of fit nicely. And I start building out the neck, making the head and neck connect correctly. Start putting clay onto the arms and blending that into the body, and then baked it. And more sanding, especially since the arms don't really have a lot in there, at least the upper arms. A cool thing with the Dremel is that because of the texture, it's going to give me that like in-game look that you see Ceruledge has, where it's got like that rough, like armor grinded shape to it. And I didn't have to do much for that other than use my Dremel tool. Everything gets more sanded, files, the tedious work. Dusting Artie off once more. Now I can add a little bit of bacon bond onto the legs to start building out his massive lower legs, the huge shin guards that he's got. Then I can start building out the chest. Smoothing out the chest. Giving him his Spartan and Mega Man chest piece. And of course, because I'm still working with some loose clay on top of this thing, I need it harder, so I need something to keep it, stiff. And I'm gonna bake. Am I gonna bake it? No. We're going to the freezer. Burger. Rolled out some wormy dealy things, like you would see from north of the border, adding to the collar for him. Rolled out some smaller pieces of clay to add onto the sides of the shins to make the other, like, spike things. Pulled out my X-Acto blade to carve off the spikes for the tops of the shin guards to have, like, the spikes. Added more clay to the backs of the calves to build those out. Started measuring out the waist guard, kind of like the cod piece area. Rolled out some thinner pieces of clay in my pause machine to make sure that they are thin enough. It took a little bit to get these correctly. The triangle pieces didn't want to fit. Now it's time for the shoulders, where I rolled up to 2 balls, and then I cut out some thinner pieces of clay to add the graphics onto it. And I smoothed those out into it to blend the 2 pieces together. After blending them together, I added the smaller parts for the pauldrons. The pauldrons. Now I started rolling out a longer piece of clay to cut up into pieces to build the forearms for the swords. Attached everything together. The blades are actually not connected. They're just put into the wire. And now I started carving out the lines that are going to be the light blue patterns on Artie's body. Now I did a bake, so that now we just need to clean them up and sand them down. And then I messed up on his left leg. Made it a little bit short, but we'll fix it. So I also started cutting out the swords that Artie has. I have this Warblood plastic, which is not too difficult to cut, but I would recommend using something other than just a regular knife because it hurts your thumb. I wanted more of a dynamic fire for the blades, so I added my own little designs towards the end, the trails, and then had 4 full cutouts for the swords. Each sword is 2 cutouts put together. I cleaned up the fire, took the ink and Sharpie off of it with rubbing alcohol. And then all I have to do is heat up the Warblood and use one of my tools to press the 2 pieces together to make sure that they stick. Now we beveled the edges after everything's stuck together, so it's got a nice sharp edge, just like the swords should have. And then I have to use the heat gun to heat form the extra fire bits that I put on them. And there we go. The swords I attached to the hands with some hot glue, and I didn't want to fuss a bunch of epoxy or other sort of super glue and mess things up. I went in with my Dremel tool again to clean up some of the extra lines, like the lines on the thighs, as well as the lines on the arms, to show that division between like the different colors. Same with the helmet. The legs also got Dremel sanded down. The feet were then carved in with those extra lines. More sanding. I then had to drill a hole in the back of his head for the fire. So I'm going to be using this Warbler crystal art for the fire, for the eyes, as well as the ponytail. Now I've got the Warbler into the formed shapes, the rough shapes. And then I trimmed them down and cut them into the way that I want for the fire in the eyes, as well as the fire ponytail coming off the back of his head. Put an armature wire in the ponytail to make it look like it'll fit. The spikes were then placed into the head so that he has his horns. And now we start painting. I started painting with a black base coat all over the entire body. Slowly getting through and making sure that everything is evenly painted. Painted the entire body black. Then I used a different lighter shade for the body. Different shades of blue. Darker and lighter. Everything got about 2 coats. I added white to the eyes and the helmet parts. Dry brushed everything to bring out that detail. Then I could add the purple to the helmet and the eyes. Being very careful. Then I UV resined the eyes as well as the purple parts of the helmet. Blasted him with the UV light to harden it. Super glued the fire on the back of the head. Super glued the fire to the eyes. Both of them got that. I used a sheet of plastic I have for the base. Dremeled and sanded it down for detail. I had a bunch of little pieces cut off that I was going to put underneath it to give it more depth. Each piece went around in a circle. Using terracotta base coat, then a hand-mixed brown overpaint. I took these blue polymer clay things and turned them into black crystals. The base coat of add a couple different colors to the bottom for base coat to dark wash off the base. More dark wash. Dark washing is fun. You just dab off all of the wet paint with a paper towel. Then after the dark wash, you go in with a dry brush. Just lightly touching up the edges of the rocks and the base to make those edges really pop. And it really helps give depth to the entire piece. Once the painting for those were done, I started adding more details like the crystals that you find around Paldea. And then I added more crystals to the base of, well, the base. Then I highlighted the edges of the crystals with a little bit of white. Adding the fire to the base that I wanted to make, I poured out some hot glue and made several of those to make fire. And then I decided to attach all of them together so that they made a more fiery looking fire. highlight them. Use the wire to put in underneath the fire. Held the fire there for a long time with glue. And then once all the fire was glued together, I'm now putting the wires at the bottom of the base. Making sure that I also have a flat area for the switch. Then I decided to add more detail to the fire. I was going to use this cool, like, stained glass paint. 2 different colors on it. It goes on opaque and then it starts turning transparent after it dries and cures. And then after the base was done, I was able to put Artie into the base and fit the armature wire underneath the base. And position them correctly. And all that's left now is to show them off. thank you all for watching this. This is the first time I've tried to make a video like this. I think this figure turned out really well, and I look forward to making more of this stuff. So if you'd like, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll be making more videos and art stuff like this in the future. And I will see you all in the next one.